We have Commissioners Strohmeyer and Slotnick, Harry Powers, Rob Bergen, Allison France, John Hart, Maddie Scott, Annie Kathy, Randy Arnold, and Ann Hughes.
Excellent. Thank you. Is there any public comment on items down on the agenda? Yes, Commissioner Slotnick.
The press release, but I'll just say it out loud here. This will be my last meeting for quite a while. I'm going to be gone for most of the month of July at a training program in Boston as part of the Harvard Kennedy School of Government. I'll be there from the 6th to the 25th of July, learning with people who do the same type of work that we all do, electeds and people who work in state and local government. I'll come back inspired and excited. Hopefully less of a pain in the butt.
Okay, there you go. There we have the rest of the story on Josh's upcoming absence.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anything else from anyone? Okay, we have 2 consent agenda items. Anything needing to be discussed there, or we can approve this rascal?
Let's approve this consent agenda.
Okay, I'll second that. Any further discussion on the consent agenda? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have a few action items today, and it looks like the first one is Bethany joining us.
There she is.
Okay.
Hey, good morning, Commissioners.
Yeah.
Today, I am requesting your approval on a proposed contract between Missoula County Parks, Trails, and Recreation and Bad Goat Forest Products. This is a local timber frame builder based out of Missoula. So the scope of this construction contract will be for the design, the fabrication, and the assembly of a 720 square foot open air, universally accessible picnic pavilion. And that'll be located at right next to the skate park at the Clinton Community Center, or excuse me, Clinton Community Park. The total for this contract comes out to $57,855. The primary funding sources for this project are going to be from the 2024 and 2025 cycles of the Community Parks and Recreation Grants Program. And this grant award will be matched by contributions from Friends of Missoula Parks. We anticipate construction of the pavilion would be completed by October of this year. And yeah, we're just really excited to pursue the next phase of the Clinton Community Park master plan. I will open the floor to any questions if there are any. Yeah.
Thanks, Bethany.
Yeah, I don't have any questions. Just super excited that this is happening. It's great news. So, Trails Bond. Excited we're doing this.
Got a motion?
It's a motion.
Okay, I will second that. Any further discussion or comment on the motion to approve the PSA? Jackson, are you wanting to comment?
No comments.
Okay.
Great to see that skate park get even better.
All right.
Thank you.
Let's go ahead and vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thanks, Bethany. And Jackson, this is the reason why you appeared. It looks like we have a resolution qualifying the Marshall Mountain Park base area redevelopment project as eligible for a sum listed here of $176,581. Talk to us about this.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, we're requesting those Trails Bond Program funds for the purpose of funding trailhead development and improvements at Marshall Mountain Park. They would also be utilized as local match for an upcoming land and water conservation fund request that's focused more broadly on base area redevelopment. The project scope for trailhead facility development includes kiosks with associated signage and maps, additional bear-proof trash receptacles, bike racks, drinking fountains, and an ADA compliant double vault restroom. Missoula County Parks and Trails Advisory Board reviewed the level 2 application and passed a motion to recommend expenditure for this project. The action before you today is just a qualifying resolution. I'll be back later this month to provide a more detailed presentation if the motion passes. And the Trails Bond request would account for roughly 10% of the overall project cost, with the land and water conservation funding and additional private fundraising through Friends of Marshall Mountain as well, rounding that out.
Great.
Okay.
Good work at Marshall Mountain.
Yeah, I'd love to see this bond money rich other money. There's my motion.
I'll second that. Let's do this. Any further discussion or comment on this item? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you, Jackson.
Thank you.
Is Mr. Zanettis out there?
I am also on the line here, and also with another Trails Bond project, so we'll just keep it rolling. So similar to Jackson, this is the qualifying resolution, so this is the first step, and I will also be coming back to you if you approve this resolution with a formal presentation at the approval resolution hearing later in July. This project is the Rock Creek Confluence project. This was submitted by Five Valleys Land Trust, and it is for trail and trail facility improvements at the Rock Creek Confluence property, which is a property that they own and manage at the confluence of the Rock Creek and Clark Fork River, just to the south of the I-90 interchange. Project includes building segments of universally accessible trail, segments of non-universally accessible trail segments that will lead to the river, as well as trail facility improvements such as expanded parking lot, privacy partition, and other trailhead facilities. So I have the resolution in front of you, and I'm here for questions.
Nick, it's good to see some of this Trails Bond money getting shoveled out here. What's the balance of what's available currently?
Yeah, we still have 1.3 out of the 3 million total from the 2014 bond. So we still have just under half.
Second that sentiment. Glad we're putting it to work.
Okay, I moved and Josh seconded. Any further discussion or comment? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Thank you,
Thanks,
Nick.
Thank you.
And who is presenting on this next item? VX Rail Hardware.
And Marshall, I just messaged him. I think he's heading in right now. Might be delayed for just a
Do
second.
we want to? Is there anything else we need to discuss amongst ourselves?
Could move to the discussion items and then come back to item 4.
Could do-
Where's Ken traveling from? Like down the hall or across town?
It is in the office.
You want to run down and?
Yeah, let's budget items.
Well, he has,
He also has
He
a
has the
budget
budget
item.
item.
he has budget items
Yes.
also,
It looks like he's the budget item guy today.
besides Randy.
Besides,
Oh, and
Rick.
Ken's taking the lead on my budget.
Yeah, it's a good.
Oh, well, see, there we go.
That's a Larchmont IT.
See that? So, yeah.
I could wing it.
Bet. How's Larchmont season so far?
Oh, man, they are so busy. It's
Thanks.
great.
Love
Yeah,
hearing
it's so
that.
great. Every time I go
Fantastic.
out there, good crew, busy,
Great.
happy golfers.
I have one person in my extended family who's a true Larchmont fan, so I check in with him a lot.
Yeah.
Every time the review's the same.
It's really cool. Oh, yeah, it's such a fun space. I went out there to visit those guys last week and got there a little earlier than in the day than normal. And you get a snapshot at different times of the day, but what was so fun is to see the putting greens just full of kids. And Rick out there, of course, he's our golf pro as well as the manager. And Rick was very patiently wrangling a big pile of kids with clubs. And they were doing a great job. And as they left the putting green and back towards the parking lot and parents were picking them up, all the kids were in like really nice golf wear, but like the tiniest pieces of golf wear. And I thought, man, this is a pipeline of new
Yeah, it's a
golfers.
pipeline.
It was so cool.
These will be season ticket holders.
Exactly, yeah.
All right. Well, breaking news: Jimmy Sweatert has died.
Oh, geez.
Okay. So with that, Ken, we have an item here: VX Rail Hardware Software Pro Support. What
Yeah,
is this?
The
Oh, my
action item
goodness.
On the agenda.
yeah, I've got a thing for y'all.
This is not the budget.
Oh,
This is the
It's your action.
the action item.
oh, okay.
Rick hardware.
Yes, so we have we have some infrastructure down the basement over there at the annex, some computers and stuff.
I've heard of such.
Yeah, so we are bound by some licensing for that particular system, which runs most of the county infrastructure. That is our virtualization infrastructure.
Virtualization infrastructure.
Yeah, it sounds pretty fancy,
It
right?
does, it does.
It's back when I started here.
Visualize it.
Yeah, you can imagine. It's about this tall. It's about from me to you deep, about yay wide. And it runs the entire county.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty cool, right? When I started here, we replaced, about 16 years ago, we replaced 2 whole racks, and the racks are very tall and very big, right? With that much gear, which is pretty cool. Anyway, all that to say, we need to pay for our support and our licensing for that system. And this is, I don't know if you guys had heard about it was big in the tech world, but Broadcom bought VMware, which is the
Did
software.
not hear that.
How did we miss
Yeah,
that?
how did you miss that? I know. And the big news is, of course, they jacked up the price 300%.
Oh,
Only
Yeah.
300%.
Only 300%, right?
They also own trailer parks.
Yeah. Yeah, we got off really easy. We only saw about 100% increase, and that took a lot of doing. So, yeah, that's what this is all about.
Oh,
Are you still happy with the system?
I am strongly considering pivoting away in the future because the reality of the situation is they're going to keep tuning up that price until they find the breaking point for the market. And they know that they are the dominant player in that space, and they can manipulate that position very effectively. Basically, they can drop 2/3 of their customer base if they get a third to pay 300%,
Sure.
and then they have less to do.
Yeah. Less work.
I feel like that's maybe not a great proposition for small organizations.
so commissioners, Ken has this as the actual action item number 4, and it is his first budget presentation for this exact item also.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he is asking that we sign, he has authorization to sign this agreement, but it is a budget presentation at the same time.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk about the same stuff in a minute.
Yeah.
So what
so we
is?
need to do this though, right?
We need to do
Okay,
this.
what do you think?
Oh, let's do
I'll
that.
second that. Any further discussion on doing this? All in favor? Aye. Okay, now
Now I'm going to give you some.
you get to go into the budget.
Yes.
Sweet.
This is the VX Rail refresh.
Yeah, well, and I have VX, blah, blah, blah. So database backup, account self-service, password management system, VX Rail refresh. We'll talk a little bit about telephone services, a new position, and last but not least, some Larchmont infrastructure. Here you go. Does anybody else want one of these?
Yes.
There you go. I printed the exact right number.
Perfect.
Need it for the meeting.
I just need it to put it in the packet.
All right, we'll start with the biggest and hardest one first. Do you mind if I deviate from the presented order?
Just go whatever you want to do.
Awesome. So first things first, I'm looking to fund a new deputy operations director for the technology department, which is part of an overall basically reorganization of the technology department to make it a little bit more efficient, a little bit easier for me to tackle and direct my attention at the things that I think I need to be. And I think it's a fairly succinct summarization, but right now I have no directors in my department. I'm a chief without any directors. I don't know. I thought I would come up with some fun analogy there, but that's what I'm gonna go with. So I really want to take our department and restructure our core IT departments, the ones that provide support, that build computers, that run the servers, the people who you think of as traditional IT, apart from the other departments in my department, which would be GIS, records, which are not really traditionally IT departments, right? And push them under a single banner and a single director to drive efficiency and coordination across our software, our hardware, and networking, and all of those core IT concerns. So this particular position we'd be looking at would be somewhat analogous. And this may or may not ring true or ring with any sort of remembrance, I suppose, but Jason Emery before me was looking at implementing a deputy director position that would do the same exact thing. So this is kind of a continuation of that idea. Because there's just a lot of work and it's hard to coordinate at my level because I end up just being kind of a high level manager or a director instead of more a chief officer in that case.
So, I'm sorry if you said this already. Why the word deputy? Are you looking for a director?
Yeah, I mean, it is a director. I think we started off with deputy as a cost control measure to bring that down a notch.
Because normally I think of, you gotta have a director in order to have a deputy.
Yeah, a deputy with no director.
No sheriff.
That's a little weird. I mean, the
So
title.
you still aren't getting a director.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So, all that to say, the title, I'm looking at ways to basically cut corners and make it cost effective because it's an expensive position, no matter which way you look at it. The cost that's presented, I split it into two here. It's a low six-figure salary kind of human. And we'd be looking at starting that position mid-fiscal year. So we'd begin looking, around the holidays, trying to fill that in January 1. So.
Okay. And by the way, I appreciate the prioritization.
That's helpful.
Yeah. Hey, I listened to the last one because I was thinking, you know what they would like? Prioritization. And I also, I thought about it afterwards. I did, my typical prioritization is high, medium, low, plus a critical, right? Just to add a little emphasis. Unfortunately, I have no lows, right? So it may as well just be high, medium, low. That said, next on the list is a string of applications and development requests. The first of which is a database backup solution is probably the most critical thing. And I think probably the smallest to ask. Yes. This system, this bit of infrastructure goes to replace an aging system that actually has been out of support and unpaid for the last 3 years. But it is a highly critical. Anytime we have a database fault or problem, we rely on that system to ensure that we can get our data back and meet statutory requirements and, for that matter, just continue doing business, right? So small cost, but it's been something we've been negotiating for some time, looking for the right product so we don't get stuck in a scenario where we don't like what we bought. Small potatoes, but very critical. Any questions about that? Okay. Password management, there's a little bit more meat on this one in the sense that it is both expensive and also interesting, and I suppose just more to talk about. Password management, you guys use a password manager of any sort at home?
Pass.
I should.
Yeah, you should.
I should.
You absolutely should. That's the recommendation across all organizations, not just a commercial thing, not just a government thing. It's just generally a good idea because you know what we ask you to do when you set up accounts online is we ask you to create unique credentials, right? A unique password. And then we ask you to make it really long. And that's problematic for humans to remember.
Yeah.
So you use LastPass. Bitwarden is a near clone of LastPass.
Okay.
It's also an open source product, meaning that the community contributes. We basically would just pay for support for said software. This platform and the proposal would cover the implementation countywide so that everybody could benefit from that, which would give us a leg up on our security posture, make everybody's jobs a little easier when I ask them to make long passwords that are separate for absolutely everything. So that said, this is also going to be a phased item, so it might take us several years to get there. So the beauty of that is it would be cheaper up front and it'd get more expensive as we move forward.
Would you need this if you use the same password for everything that you?
You might need a lawyer at that point.
That's good.
So Ken, we would stay with Bitwarden, this would.
We would, yes. And so we're running the, just as an added bit of information there, we, between comms and technology, we already use Bitwarden. We use the open source free version. The issue with that just being that we don't really care to rely too heavily on products, especially countywide, where the support the support situation becomes more critical, right? When we have 1,000 users who are all using this. We don't like to rely necessarily on free products when we get bigger.
Yeah.
So this buys us that support and allows us to pivot. And I hope anyway, that comms enjoys it. I know my department really enjoys it.
Yeah.
So
Very secure.
is there no more password spreadsheets floating around?
I did get in trouble. Bye.
So, any questions about that? All right. Account self-service. This is for another platform called SpecOps. Relatively modest price for a bit of software that basically allows us to do password management, which password and account management across the internet, which allows us in this ever increasing hybrid work scenario. It allows us to prompt users and allow them to reset their password at will across our domain, which right now, if you have a password reset if you have to reset your password and you are not at work and it is after hours, you are shit out of luck. So this is one of those things. In general, our service desk fields a dozen or between a dozen and 2 dozen password reset requests per week. And it takes a fair bit of time. It takes 15, 20 minutes per. So you can kind of add up the math there. And so this is a cost control or cost savings idea I had. And it pans out that should our averages remain consistent, we'd more than break even on this. And it just increases general satisfaction. If you're home, you need to reset a password, or any of our remote or hybrid workers need to reset passwords in scenarios where they can't either reach service desk or it's after hours, whatever the case may be, this supports them. But it also gives us some other abilities that increase our security posture and just make for a better user experience. Great. Any questions on that one? All right. So you guys have already heard me wax poetic about VxRail and VMware. One of the things that Michelle and I have been kind of working back and forth on for some time is we've been under the gun to refresh our virtualization infrastructure for since 2023. And in 2023, we're at 5 years old, which is considered to be the lifespan of this system. We are now into the geriatric ward, absolutely. And the problem is this is big infrastructure. Today, this would likely cost us over $250,000 to fully rip and replace. It's a big, powerful system. Problem is doing that once every 6 years is a big sticker shock. We all go, we need, maybe, in 6 more years, we need $500,000. How can we find this? The idea that that Michelle and I kind of came up with is it might be a better idea to build an ongoing account. What's the word? I don't really.
Like capital improvement.
Yeah, basically, an ongoing fund that we would contribute.
Yeah.
A chunk of that every year.
Sure.
And
the
then
bill comes due, it's not.
yeah, we have money saved up. It's just like at home. When you want to buy something cool, you save for it, right?
So would this $65,000 actually get us anything, or just create the account that would at some point be applied towards the
Just the
thing?
annual contribution.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. This wouldn't get us anywhere today. This is going to get us somewhere in the future.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a
And
capital improvement plan, but
Yep.
this is not a capital thing. It's I don't know what category.
yeah, I mean, we're pivoting it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's an operational, we're trying to make it an operational cost because it is predictable. It is not something that we can it's not a bulldozer we can buy and park in the lot and use it until it expires. Yeah. So it's just really important. And we do this year, we've managed to negotiate with our vendor to extend our support and our licensing availability. So we're going to get the 35 that we just talked about at the beginning of this. That's going to carry us through, believe it or not, September. It took us this long just to negotiate the contract because they're so slow and confused. We'll just go with confused. I'm really unhappy with them. But all that to say, that's why I've tagged this as virtualization infrastructure refreshes, because I don't really want it to be, I want it to be platform agnostic. I want that money to be for whatever we choose to replace our virtualization infrastructure.
So again, what is the definition of virtualization?
Yeah, so, there's servers, right? That's a general thought.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, you've heard of that. So we have a bunch of servers, right? And
Yeah.
back in the old days, we had 50 or 100 of them all stacked up. And they were this tall, like I said, the other dimensions are pretty consistent. And today, instead of racking all this new hardware constantly and ripping it out, putting in new, replacing it every year, we buy one stack of really powerful hardware and we make virtual servers inside of it. So that little stack of hardware I was being facetious. It's more like this tall.
So when you say virtual services, I mean, it sends information out that's actually stashed somewhere else.
Yeah, it's like it's emulating, or it's this little stack of hardware makes up for having
It's like it distributes rather than aggregates.
It is both, actually, which is really interesting. So imagine with me for a moment, the cloud in general is the kind of the next iteration of virtualization. The cloud, there's not every server that you interact with on the internet isn't a physical piece of hardware somewhere, but instead it's like time sharing a piece of hardware somewhere, because they have these massive, super powerful systems that can represent hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of servers. We're doing the same thing, but just in a much, much smaller scale, and allows us to save a lot of money.
Does that mean we have to be time sharing with servers that are in some other location?
No, that's why we do it ourselves in our own data center. So it's just ours. We time share with ourselves. Yeah. So the other nice thing is
That's a mind bender.
Yeah, right. And when you think about, we have about 140 servers in our infrastructure right now, in our virtualization infrastructure. If we were to buy those like we did in 2005 as physical servers, those would each be $5,000 a piece. So it'd be a lot of money. Yeah, it'd be a lot of money.
And a lot of space.
And a lot of space, a lot of power.
And energy to keep it cool.
So it's, and that's, that's also part of the, our data center has just shrunk and shrunk. When I started here, our data center was probably twice the size of this room, I think. And now all of our infrastructure could fit in half this room.
And we're not using anybody else's anywhere else. It's all just right there.
Yes.
So what happens if half of this room burns up?
Yeah, that's a really good and important question. I think for starters, we have a lot of backup and a lot of disaster recovery planning that goes into ensuring that we have continuity of services. And for the most part, if we have a fire in that room, the Halon system just takes care of it. If the room itself burns, we have our backups. We have offsite backup. We have a cloud backup, so our data goes over.
So there is a cloud component here.
There is a cloud component in that we purchase storage outside of our network to store our backups. And then further, we have a set of backups in the health department building. So hopefully both buildings don't burn down. And yeah, so we have a lot of redundancy, and that's good. But this infrastructure, like I said, it really drives everything we do. If the server room goes offline, your computer is basically a brick. Yeah. So pretty important.
Okay,
All right.
thanks.
Yeah. Next on the line, Rob's here to talk a little bit about it as well. Yeah, I mean, can talk about it. Sorry, Rob, don't scare you.
Here with handouts.
Yeah, so we have a little bit of additional supporting information for the telephone services fee restructuring. So we have today we have about 1,300 endpoints, 1,300 handsets, and other things like fax machines and elevator phones, and
Fax machine.
yeah, you guys have a fax machine. I actually converted your fax machine now to a eFax.
Our backs.
Yes. Yeah. And Rob's department runs that as well. So that fax machine out there, that machine on the other side,
The copier is
The copier.
fax machine.
yep, is a fax machine. But it runs completely over the internet. It doesn't run over the phone lines. But we still actually, and believe it or not, due to HIPAA and due to, other, I don't know, I'm just going to call them Luddites in general. We still have to hold on to facts, because it is still considered very secure. That's debatable, but we don't need to get into that. But we do have other really critical things, life critical things, obviously, with regards to the phones that are in elevators, the phone support we provide to 911 and other departments, the sheriff's department. Yeah. So all that to say, we have a lot of phones, as we're, I think, all aware now with PHC, flying the coop, I suppose.
Yeah.
That is a significant portion of what of the telephone services revenue. And that presents a really big problem for us.
Can you describe the revenue piece? I don't totally understand how that works.
Yeah, so I guess the way our system, our phone system and our phone department works is we do, I think the technical term is an enterprise fund.
No, so you charge money.
Yeah, we charge back and that funds Rob's department in whole.
Okay.
So Rob's department doesn't directly take general funding, but does through the consumption of the
How
services he
building
provides.
permits work.
Yeah, exactly.
But in this case, it's just moving money internally. I mean,
Exactly.
it's an increased fee for departments to
Yep.
have a phone.
And then PHC going away, it's a loss of revenue then.
Very, very large one. And the nice thing is it's very, it's very representative of your use of the system, right? And then we do the same thing for computers. Every time somebody gets a computer, we charge them roughly, I'm going to say $600 a year. Every time a user comes on, that represents all of your software and all of your hardware and everything you need to operate. And that instead of just waving a magic wand and saying it's all even, right? You basically pay what you consume, which just makes it makes it I suppose kind of egalitarian, right? So all that to say, PHC represents about 30%, roughly 30% of telephone services revenue.
Wow.
They represent over 50% of our long distance revenue. So it leaves a big hole, approximately $130,000 in Rob's budget, and that's about a third of his budget. That said, that's not the only problem. That's exacerbating the problem. That was added on top of a conversation Rob and I have been having for some time, which is we rolled back some of those fees when Jason was here, just because it felt like we had so much room. We were making too much profit basically, and our goal is not to make profit; it's to fund the department. Yeah, and make sure that we can cover our upgrades in the future and otherwise cover our operating costs. As you're all aware, we've had a lot of inflationary pressures, tariff increases, so on and so forth over the years, and we haven't seen a rate increase for a lot of time now. And in fact, we have seen the opposite. So we really need to start increasing those. And my goal is not to make anybody pass out from sticker shock. So we really want to marginally increase these periodically, marginally increase our rates periodically to start righting that ship. And we're also looking at additional cuts to make room in that budget, but there's truly not a lot of room. The space, the costs, the operational costs that Rob's department incurs just basically cover the bills. And
so rate's going to have to go up a good chunk initially to cover the loss of PHC.
A decent chunk. I don't think it's earth shattering. And again, we're talking about spreading somewhere around.
The whole PHC thing's kind of a different.
It's a different
section.
Thing.
This is really representing.
Yeah.
This is really representing just trying to get right on track, right? This increase suggestion here. So PHC is totally different
thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So a modest amount to correct initially, and then a scheduled increase periodically, but mostly just an inflationary increase at that point, a couple percent. And that's just in line with the industry in general. So with that in mind, the PHC loss is just a nice, it adds a little bit of urgency, a little flavoring to the request. in that we're getting our hand forced more now because it's just.
Which flavor is that? I'm just curious.
Yeah, it's bad flavor.
Bad flavor.
Yeah, it's the real, yeah.
Spicy. Yes, that's good.
I wish it was spicy, if I'm being honest. And
Bitter.
yeah. Ooh, bitter is actually, it's very
It's a
accurate.
really
Yeah.
interesting thing. I'm thinking about budget in that, I mean, it all makes sense. No criticism at all. It totally makes sense. And it will make everybody else's costs go up a little bit. And I'm imagining those different departments aren't anticipating this unless you guys have been in steady communication, which may have happened for all I know. But if that hasn't happened, and I don't fault you for it, everybody's costs go up.
Yeah, really, so far, we've just had conversations with finance, right? So they're running the numbers to make sure.
So we keep hearing it, every admin meeting from another department talking about, these are things we are expecting increases in the next year, or things that we want to do. And nobody's anticipating that their, I don't know the right words, phone fees are going to.
Phone fees, that's fair.
So I guess a question, just budget process wise, since there are lots of costs escalating across the county that are just baked into the base budget that we're not treating as a new ask. In this case, why would that not also be the case, that these fee increases are just part of the base budget?
I think that we saw these as large enough. I mean, with finance's assistance on the interpretation of this, right? We saw these increases as large enough that they warrant a deeper conversation and obviously a budgetary presentation. I don't think that there are a lot of ways to get around this otherwise. And yes, it is kind of just a baseline operational increase. But it is going to require careful communication and consideration across all departments, because it is a hardship that we're asking everybody to share in. And that said, we're looking at ways to cut, this fortuitously has happened in concert with some adjustments Rob and I have been making in the department to cut our overall phone costs. We have a lot of increases that we shouldered during COVID because we relied so much more heavily on our phones. We're looking to start reducing that. We have some other related changes that we're going to use, and so we're going to slash here and there to try and bring the overall deficit down. But we also are going to have to treat it from the other side as well.
Could you just describe what we're looking at here? So
Rob,
I can sure.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, this just gives an idea of what a rate increase would be on different groups of departments based on what they're currently paying. So at the top, the first kind of row down where it says current cost, that's the per endpoint cost that row or column of departments are currently paying. And then the proposed increase and the percent of the increase amount there. And then it just breaks down to how many endpoints they have at that cost line, given the total at the bottom. And then just some overall totals annually, and then kind of comparison of what the PHC deficit would be.
What does LD stand for?
Long distance.
Okay. So take, for instance, 911. $12 versus the $7 in long distance.
So really just the long distance is just giving you an idea of what they spend monthly, approximate monthly long distance charges. And that's kind of another conversation, because ideally I would like to do away with long distance just to kind of reduce kind of effort that folks have to do into their day-to-day calling, right? So that's one idea, to kind of reduce, what departments have to do, but then we would also have to figure out how to make up for that, right? So
yeah, the gotcha on that is obviously nobody likes typing in their long distance code, and it's an administrative burden for Rob's department because we have to bill for that. That said, making long distance free as a benefit would just drive up everybody's average cost, because we have to cover it somehow.
I haven't heard the phrase long distance for decades.
I know. Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Yeah. How does that fit in here
Long distance, it's the same exact scenario that you imagine or that you remember
in
from,
the 20th century?
yes, in the 20th century. Yes, where we paid per minute, you know,
Yeah,
MCI or
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah, I totally remember.
right? Yeah.
So right now, if I make a long distance call from the phone on my desk, I've got to type in a code.
Your long distance code.
There are some extensions that have disabled the requirement for entering the code, but the long distance charges are still processed.
And so.
For example, like the health department, they have folks that work on different grants, and so they like to keep track of where those, the allocation of that funds is going based on the grant that they're using. So it's not really a big necessary use case scenario, but those folks who have asked, hey, do I really need this? I can just disable that. So that's not a big issue if you're not worried about keeping track of those charges.
So if a person in their residence has a landline and they want to call someone outside of 406,
Yeah.
is that a long distance call?
If it is a classic
Yeah.
copper phone line, what we call a POTS phone line, right? That is still the case. Now, if you get your phone through Spectrum, you're actually using voice over IP. It's, it's a whole different story. And the thing is ultimately nobody saved money when we started getting free long distance, right? That's a myth. It's a simplification. You didn't save anything. Everybody got charged an average amount. So companies aren't doing anything for free, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's the same thing within the county. We could eliminate long distance and instead charge everybody just a little bit more, but everybody pays a little bit more. So today I make one call. I probably make a dozen calls a month, right? In total on my phone. I make maybe one long distance call every other month. And so when I think about it, I'm thinking, yeah, I might pay an extra $3 a month so that we can average that long distance across to everybody. But I'm actually paying more because I probably was paying 20 cents a month, averaged for my long distance.
Yeah, so just from additional information, is like you mentioned 406, and it's not all of 406 is local. Like Helena is long distance.
Yeah.
There's certain, it's just a small chunk, yeah.
Okay.
And then also I pay Blackfoot every month for long distance, and so I just kind of recoup those costs through this method.
And okay, not to belabor the long distance, I just have a question though. So because a lot of people move here from other places, they keep their phone number, they keep an area code that's not Montana, but they might be local. Is that long distance? Yeah.
Technically, yes.
Yes. And that's the thing is that's part of the simplification of that equation, right? Is that people just don't port their phone numbers anymore. They just take them with them because almost nobody has a landline anymore.
Yeah.
I bet you somebody in this room has a not 406 number, right? There you go. That was an easy one. All that said, the situation gets so much more complicated when you start ferreting out. It would be great just to say, done. But.
And we can do that. We just got to make up for it somewhere else.
Yeah. And we're already trying to make up for other things somewhere else. So.
Rob, so just so I'm understanding this, so let's go back to the 911 department example here where it says quantity 4. Surely there's more than 4 phone lines.
So that number, 911's very segmented, right? So that quantity of 4 is like Sherry, Daniel, they've got a couple of other physical desk phones, just like we have in the office, that are actually separate from the 911 operations.
System.
Yes.
Yeah.
Separate.
Okay.
Exactly.
Times 12, times 3.
So the times 3 is just the proposed increase.
There's the law.
$12 a month is what?
That for 911, that would be their increase.
This is the increase. So none of these increases look, well, $200 a month at the health department.
Still,
Yeah, given the size of the health department.
should be able to handle that.
It's a blip in the radar for most, yes.
Yeah, so it's putting all these together that makes a difference. It's not going to hurt anyone
Yeah.
too badly in the small.
Yeah.
Do it again.
Just smaller each time. So
Okay.
Sounds quite literally like the cost of doing business.
it's quite literally the cost of doing business. Yeah, absolutely.
So does that bring us to Larchmont?
Sure does.
Okay.
I did throw this on mine as well. Randy, I didn't know if you included anything, so.
I was gonna have you take the lead and I can add any color.
Can I add something really quick? We got a comment from Micah. Thank you for putting it in the chat. And that the telephone expenses have already been added to the base budget. Thank you.
So my concern is Good job, Micah.
Appreciate that clarity.
Yeah.
Okay.
Micah.
You can all breathe a sigh of relief.
Yes.
That was a close one.
Yeah. I'm glad to see they're so on it though. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So last thing, this is Larchmont's infrastructural upgrade. It is the summary that's on the discussion items is a little, I feel like it doesn't do it justice. You all have heard this conversation in one of our admin meetings about Larchmont's woes with their internet access.
Heard that.
Yeah. This covers basically riding the ship over there, replacing their gear with enterprise class gear, the same gear that we deploy everywhere in the county. That was set to be done last year. I'm unsure as to why we didn't do that last year, or why I feel like we might have missed it as a budget request last year, maybe. Anyway, all that said, basically what we'll be doing is, I don't know if you've seen, I should have brought pictures because it's hilarious, the state of the networking closet, if you will, out there, but they just have holes drilled straight through the wall. They got cables yanked through, people are rolling their chairs over them. It's wonderful. It's a mess, to say the least, and they're using all what we call consumer grade gear there. The same stuff you go to Walmart, buy it off the shelf. It's not really great, and when we're talking about supporting an entity that generates revenue, we don't like that in general. So
Commercial grade.
we need commercial grade. We call it enterprise grade. And what we're looking to do is put a firewall out there, which that's pretty good. Put enterprise grade Wi-Fi like that out there. That is also really good because most of their devices run wirelessly these days. And that also will link them up. That firewall gives us the ability to link them to the county network. So they'll just be an extension of our network. Also gives us the ability to support public Wi-Fi out there should we desire. I think the desire is yes, but yeah. And the same public Wi-Fi we have in this building and basically the entire Missoula County campus. And then last but not least, or excuse me, not almost last but not least, the replacement and rewiring of all of that infrastructure. So all that gets gutted, pulled out, and gets replaced with a commercial grade wiring job, which is just really important that we don't have wires laying exposed and so on and so forth. And further, when we start mounting gear like that on the ceiling, obviously it needs to be wired appropriately and professionally. And we want people to feel like they're working in a professional environment, at least from the IT infrastructure side of things. So that's all kind of bog standard stuff that we've been planning on doing. That roughly is the cost, the one-time cost, the about 15 grand that we're looking for there. That on top of that, there's a bit of an upgrade that we've already begun simply because it is a cost savings, which is great. We're replacing the Spectrum internet at that facility, which has been a bit of a problem, been a little unreliable, and we're replacing it with fiber from Blackfoot, which is our preferred internet provider, our preferred internet partner. That is going to drop the price about $60 a month, which is great. Saves us $700-ish a year, and give us better speed, better connectivity back to the main office here, well, over there anyway. And last but not least, that ongoing cost, obviously, or I think obviously anyway, $1,200 is a lot less than the few $100s of internet access that we'd be talking about there. That $1,200 covers the licensing for the Wi-Fi because there is an ongoing cost for that, as well as the licensing for the firewall. So the rough increase, the net, I think, would be roughly $900 increase.
Okay, so will revenue from the golf course cover?
Yes. And for the business case, the user end, for the staff out there, they're running so much stuff wireless now. Like all of the irrigation is done from Scott's cell phone. He can manage it and monitor it from home and check what's going on with sprinklers. All of the different points of sale through our new T-Quest system. So from booking eat times to the Caddyshack points of sale, the beverage cart, and as well as the pro shop, all of those are Wi-Fi supported. And when they get a drop in that, then you end up with all these problems with actually running a credit card twice and not having it, like, accounting for those fees. So every time we have a problem with Spectrum in service, either we can't run the irrigation, we drop a sale on a point of sale on a beverage cart. So it's been really hard to manage and get some consistency there. So I really appreciate Ken's vision too of bringing them into the full county fold and being able to have access to all those, the back of shop stuff that's going to really improve service.
Great,
Good upgrades.
Okay.
great stuff. Thank you.
Questions from anyone? Okay, I think that was our last budget item. I think we are done. Thank you.
Thanks.
Rob. Thank you, Ken.
Yeah, thank you.
Everyone.
President.